Hello, and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zishan Hassan, and I'm the tutor of Advanced Audit Assurance. This video is based on one of the recent technical articles on ACCA website, which is saying answering 50-mark questions, or you can say answering Section 8 questions in Advanced Audit Assurance exams. So let us start with it. Let's dive in. Okay. So, the section in question in advanced audit assurance exam is worth 50 marks as all we know it, right? So, therefore, gaining a strong mark in this question, I must suggest that you must all focus and should be determined to score 35 marks to 40 marks to increase the chances pass your exam, right? So there are few important points to remember when approaching the question. Number one, the question is always set at the planning stage of the audit. It will be always related to the planning stage of the audit. Number two, the current date in the examination in the question number one will always be 1st July 2000 X5, with the year end of the client being 30th September 2000 X5, right? Now, there will be a significant proportion of the marks in respect of the identification and evaluation of the risk associated with the client. This may be business risk, risk of material misstatement, audit risk on occasion. It may be combination of both risks, which the partner is asking for analysis on. And your exhibit one will be the partner's email, which will outline the requirements and what will it need to be addressed. The format will always in the form of briefing notes to the partner. Right now, stepping up from audit assurance to advanced audit assurance. Well, candidates will have addressed audit risk questions at double exam as well. The same principles apply, but require a broadened range of risk, which include identification of risk of material misstatement and business risk. Remember that business risks were not part of the audit assurance exam. For more information on this type of risk, uh, we will also look at the articles published on the risk. Candidates will also require an additional depth of knowledge and demonstrate greater understanding of the financial reporting at audit assurance. The required knowledge of financial reporting was limited to financial accounting in audit assurance, but in advanced audit and assurance, you need a knowledge of finance reporting and strategic business reporting as well. So prior to the sitting to the advanced audit assurance exam, without the relevant knowledge of financial reporting and advanced, strategic business reporting, it will be very difficult to explain the impact of the potential misstatement by incorrectly applying relevant accounting standards. Now, as far as the structure of the question is concerned, what will be asked? At least 20 marks will be attributable to the identification, evaluation, or assessment of the risk in the scenario which will affect your audit plan. The remaining 20 marks, remember that 10 marks are professional skill marks over here, will be based on the selection of other issues. It will be uh, which can include discussion of actions or procedures to mitigate the risk already identified, discussion of the auditor's responsibilities in respect of laws and regulations, fraud, money laundering, breaching, specialist industry regulations, license requirements, etc. Other issues, for example, it may be related to the data analytics. It will be problems assessing on non-financials such as KPIs, key performance indicators, sustainability issues, internal controls issues, auditing outsourced services issues, audit experts issues. It may be related to the money laundering. It may be related to the fraud and regulations, vice versa. Right? This list is which list is limited. Examiner is not limited. He can ask other areas as well. Now, how to approach the exam? With the revision to ISA 315, candidates will have seen a requirement which asks for evaluation and prioritization of the significant risk of material misstatement, audit risk, business risk, however, do not require prioritization as the examining team do not necessarily assume any industry specific knowledge. Other types of questions may also be asked which use the same basic principle. What are the significant, that means important risk in the scenario? What types of the risk are candidates being asked about? What are the risks significant in this audit plan? What can the audit team do to mitigate these risks? Assessment of risk style. Number one, evaluation and prioritization of the significant risk of material misstatement or audit risk. Candidates will need to use the guidance provided in the requirement using specific exhibits were indicated. To identify and assess the different risks, this may be audit risk or risk of material mistakes. Candidates will gain credit for prioritizing the most significant of this risk. So you should uh, prioritize your risk in your answer, right? The most significant risk you should write first, then it should be the ascending order, less significant, more significant, less significant, less significant, less significant, and so on, right? 20, if the requirement of 20 marks, you should, uh, if there is materiality over there, you will get 1 mark. For the treatment, you will get 1 mark. For the risk, you will get 1 mark. So maximum of 3 marks, right? If there is treatment and risk, 2 marks. If there is materiality and risk, 2 marks, and so on. So probably you have to write 7 to 8 at least audit risk, risk of material misstatement, audit risk, etc. Right now, evaluation and prioritize the risk of material misstatement to be considered in developing the audit strategy and audit plan. You are not required to consider the risk relating to goodwill. And B part, as you can see in the example, justify why goodwill has been identified as significant risk of material misstatement and design the audit procedures to be performed on the valuation of goodwill. So this style is breaking the risk assessment in 2 parts. Number one, candidates are required to use their skills in identifying and explaining the risk of material misstatement or audit risk if the question specifies it. However, the risk associated with goodwill should not be discussed over here. As this will be addressed in part B then require the student to use their auditing and financial reporting knowledge to justify why the specific issue is risk in the context of the specific scenario. The audit procedures will then be associated with the specified risk. For part A, candidates should remember that marks are available for the prioritization of risk in their answer. That goodwill can be disregarded for this part of the question. The examining team will be looking to see how the candidates will prioritize the other risks they identify. Then you have third type of requirement, justify why each of the following issues have been identified as a significant risk of material misstatement. Goodwill, inventories, and non-current assets. In this style of question, again, which can relate to audit risk or risk of material misstatement, the partner has identified what areas they have identified as significant candidates will need to use their auditing and financial reporting knowledge. To justify why these are risks, this style has already steered the candidates to what they need to discuss, but equally, they will have to ensure that they can discuss selected issues in depth. Each issue will be worth 3 to 6 marks right now. And then finally, justify the business risk to be considered in planning the group audit. Business risk will only uh, ever be asked in more general context and will require no pre-existing industry knowledge with all relevant information being given in the scenario. It is important candidates can take the information provided in the scenario, identify what are the business risks which are relevant to the context of the specific audit. So you have to justify just why and then implication. Remember this approach: justify, why, and implication. Now, just why and implication. So what are the risks? What are the risks are have already been established by the partner. However, it is the student who must have uh, why these to state why these are the risks. They may require explaining the underlying financial reporting treatment or explaining that it is an area where significant judgment or estimation has to be used. Finally, candidates should explain the implication of the risk. There may be material misstatements impacting the financial statements, an issue which is highlighting potential wider issue, poor estimation or judgment by management, lack of adequate controls, etc., or an issue which requires additional disclosure or reporting to other parties, that is, those charged with governance, legal authorities, etc., etc. So, this is it for this part of the for in this video, and I hope you get concept and the technique how to deal with it. In next coming up video, we'll be discussing how to plan uh, the risk questions, vice versa. So do not miss these two videos as these are essential for your exams. Take care.